I love the Mordekaiser BGU. It's an immensely creative solution to a nearly decade-old problem, and it has created a champion that I love so much to the point where I readily named my friggin' dog after him. That being said, my man is in need of a little love right now. The general Mordekaiser community is deeply unsatisfied with the champion's current state, to the point where they either need a better mythic item, as Riftmaker is trash, or some buffs to Mord's kit that might help him deal with the weaknesses inherent to his kit. The latter of which is what this video is about. After making a post on r/Mordekaiser mains asking folks what they think about the current state of the champion and what they would change, I'm going to kick around some ideas that post inspired. Before we dive into it, I do want to clarify that I'm not here to propose item buffs or make sweeping reworks to the champion. I'm not going to swap out Mord's ult for his old one, partly because I like his current ult, but also because I feel like his design is in a good spot. It's just that the champ needs better numbers. So let's dive into it, starting with... This, I feel, is mostly a complaint about Mord's E than anything. His Q doesn't need many more buffs, though we could try lowering the cast time from 0.5 to 0.25 to see how that plays out. As for the elephant in the room, I definitely think his E could use some speeding up. So if Riot is willing, it might be worth looking into reducing the delay from 0.5 to 0.25. Currently, it can feel like, in this hypermobile meta, such a slow ability can be unnecessarily difficult to land, especially on a more competent opponent, and reducing the delay on Death's Grasp could do a lot towards making Mord feel more responsive. This one, I feel, has a decently easy fix, though it might seem pretty radical on a surface level. I would strongly recommend flattening the cooldown of Indestructible from 12 to 8 seconds, depending on rank, to 9 seconds at all rank. Indestructible is a good ability, granting Mord a good amount of survivability in extended fights, but it can be difficult to use effectively versus high damage opponents due to its long cooldown. Since it's always the ability you're going to max last, having a 12-second cooldown on what is Mord's primary lane sustain and defensive tool can make this otherwise impactful ability feel underwhelming. We can also try other things like increasing the damage rate versus minions, or raising the minimum shield afterward, if this buff doesn't feel like enough, but I think it should be. Indestructible is a good ability, but it just needs a little bit more uptime to be effective. The aforementioned E change should help quite a bit with this, but another tentative change we could pursue could be to increase the bonus move speed Mord gets from his passive, instead granting him 5% increased move speed for the duration as opposed to the current 3%. I don't want to do too much to mitigate this, as this is a classic weakness of Juggernauts and is the major form of counterplay to Mord's ult, but a little help in this regard couldn't hurt. Realm of Death is a bit of a sore topic amongst Mord mains, and while I do personally love the ability, I do see the point some folks have made about it feeling somewhat lackluster. What I've thought of doing in compensation would be one of two things. We could either increase the percentage of stats stolen from the target, or remove the cleanse interaction with this ability. Let's talk about the former first. 10% of the listed stats is a decently big advantage, but ultimately, what it makes up for in versatility, it lacks in actual oomph. Sure, stealing 10% attack speed is better than nothing versus a fed ADC, but it's not really going to hinder them or bolster Mord all that much. It might be worth looking into whether Mord can steal 20% of these stats from his target as opposed to the 10% he can now. As for the cleanse interaction, this is a serious sore point amongst Mord mains, as it can feel like certain characters, or even a simple item choice, can single-handedly invalidate a pivotal part of your kit. While the interaction was pretty important during the champion's launch, as it gave players a strategy to fall back on versus such an imposing ability, the player base has gotten to the point where most folks can deal with Mord's ult even without the cleanse. Not to mention the actual cleanse summoner spells, for some reason, doesn't actually work on it. It would especially matter towards making Mord have a much easier time versus Gangplank and Rengar, who are champions with built-in cleanses as part of their kits. If Riot were to go down this road, I would also appreciate it if they made it so that using this ability on unstoppable or CC immune targets refunded part of the cooldown to make up for the mistake, but that's not entirely necessary. I love the Mord VGU. I think it's one of Riot's best. And while that love still remains, I do think my peers have made some valid complaints that should be addressed. Do I think Riot will address them? I wouldn't get my hopes up, but it'd be nice, you know? Hopefully Mord will get some sort of love that isn't a damage buff to his Q in the future. Thanks for watching.
Holy shit. Holy shit. They want my ass so bad.